looked good last week. It just didn't really pan out with Howard out. I know there's a Jahi risk, but I don't think there's going to be enough. And I just think that he's in a good spot. So I like Sanders.
Yeah, the total dropping 3 points as well. Another reason not to really game stack. I think I wasn't super interested in game stacking this earlier in the week. Now I'm completely off. I'll probably just run one off of like a DK Metcalf and run it back with Miles Sanders. I think it's probably the best way to attack that side of the ball. And yeah, last week Miles Sanders got 11 carries to Boston Scott 7. My guess is if Ajayi gets involved, it would be on the Boston Scott side of things, not as much like cutting into Miles Sanders' workload. Dallas Goedert is like just over 3K per usual. Always seems to be around that price range. I like him there as long as a receiver is out for Philly, which it looks like that's what's going to happen. Zach Ertz is an all right play if you're game stacking, but like I said, I'm not awfully interested in game stacking this. So
yeah, he's fine. He pretty much covered it.
Yeah. Next game we have is the Cleveland Browns hosting the Miami Dolphins. Cleveland are 11-point favorites. Totals come up a point since opening at 44.5, now at 45.5. It seems like everyone's not so contrarian chalk is going to be running Baker Mayfield to Odell Beckham. That like started the week, I think, in the ownership projections pretty low, and then those corrected because it seems like everybody's kind of on that. So with that being said, are you just going to run with the field on that, or do you have any way to leverage that ownership on these?
Yeah, so if I wanted to leverage it, I'd probably play Nick Chubb. I feel like that'd be the best way to leverage it. In terms of like Odell, I think he's a really good play. I think he makes for a good leverage play in himself off of what should be the chalkiest player on the slate, and Julio Jones. And Cash, I like playing both of them together. I think that should be prioritized.
Yeah, I agree. One little tidbit maybe would be if you want to get off Odell Beckham, just go to Jarvis Landry. Score him, like if he scores the touchdowns on the team, that could be the swing difference between him and Odell Beckham.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many different scenarios within this Cleveland offense. Mm-hmm. So many different guys that they can go to. If you want to roster Chubb, maybe they give it a Hunt. If you think they're going to throw it to Odell, maybe they throw it to Jarvis. But I think that they just want to get Odell in the end zone, so I think we can bank on that this week.
I'll still be having some Odell this week. Hunt right now, I think, is an interesting play. He's coming in at I have him just under 7% owned. Has like 17 targets in the past 2 weeks. He's not getting a ton of rushing work. He's averaging like 5 carries a game in his 2 games there. So I think you're basically playing him like he's a James White, like he's a Tariq Cohen. So I'd only be stacking him with Baker Mayfield, but I actually don't hate that stack.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate that stack. I think it's fine. I think it's a way to kind of do things different.
That's kind of my thought as well. I'd only be running it in like this game stack really, and I'd only be running it with Mayfield because I don't think he gets there on the ground. But again, Miami side, where are you going? Because last week Devontae Parker had the scary Tre'Davious White matchup. Didn't really matter. I think he scored 20-some points and was I think he was in the Millie Maker winning lineup, if I'm not mistaken. So are you just going back to the dude who's getting all the targets on Miami, or are you going to really the only other way I would attack it is Mike Gesicki, but they also have Patrick Laird on the ground, who got a bunch of targets in garbage time last week, and then Kalen Ballage on the ground, who's bad but gets all of the carries, and that's worth something.
Yeah, I'm not playing any of them.
All right, there we go. Got off of Kalen Ballage.
Yeah, wish I stayed on him and you didn't talk me off of him.
No, definitely when you can play bad plays. Didn't he have like 20 yards on the total?
He had 9 points by the half, which is more than Brian Hill had. So I don't care.
We're definitely not process oriented. We're results oriented team. We're the buy high model incarnate. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Next game we have Chicago versus New York. Somehow this total came down. It came down from 40.5 to 40. Chicago are still 6-point favorites. I don't care about this game at all. I don't think I have any players in this game.
Well, was it Chicago and
New York Giants.
Building a stack of this game right now as we speak.
A stack do you plan on playing, or are you just
Saquon 7,900? I'll play it.
Yeah, okay, that one's. I think that's interesting. I don't know. I'd rather pay 300 up to Alvin Kamara.
I don't know if you checked the Bears implied team total yet.
Are they supposed to score a lot? Because 20. Yeah, I don't know. They're like one
a little
of the
bit higher than like the majority. I feel like everyone's going to be on Oakland and the Jets, and that's fine. But I like Chicago. I like the Chicago side. I don't think anyone's going to play Trubisky, which they shouldn't. But I like, and if you're MMEing in tournaments, I don't hate it. With Allen Robinson, who's in the buy low model, Gabriel, maybe Cohen. Montgomery had an injury too. That was another thing that was pretty soon. Like he had last week, the week before the bye, he had a high ankle sprain. He kind of busted as chalk or whatever. Should be healthy now. I don't hate going to him. I don't mind this game. Giants pass defense isn't great. Defense in general isn't great. Saquon had another week to heal up, so I'm fine with this game.
Yeah, my only problem would be I think that if the Giants' defense is so weak, we just get Chicago establishing it for like most of the game because I don't really see the Giants coming in and scoring. So I don't think the Bears are going to have a ton of reason to have to score. You obviously don't
like did you play DFS 2 weeks ago?
What happened?
Daniel Jones is in the Millionaire Maker with Slayton, Golden Tate versus the Jets.
Like, who did he? Are we playing Brock Osweiler this week?
Daniel Jones is good, man. Danny Dimes is fine. I'm fine with Daniel Jones. I'm fine with him. Fine with him.
We can't be fine with every player though. You got to start. I got to call some players bad.
I just like lone game stacks, so it is what it is. Maybe it's just my preference.
All right, next game we have is the Saints versus the Panthers. Saints are they are 10-point home favorites with 28 implied team total. Up there with the Browns in the highest in the slate, and the totals come down to 46 after opening at 48. I would be inclined to. I can't imagine game stacking this game, especially because you'd be looking at it from the Saints side, and you would be. I mean, I can't imagine playing more than one of like Thomas Kamara. Like I would doubt that they both hit their ceiling games in the same game, especially because they have to get so many touches for that to happen. You have to get 15 touches to 20 touches from Alvin Kamara, or probably 10 touches from Michael Thomas. So I'd be much more inclined to run one of them with like if you want Ted Ginn, that's fine. Whoever, Jared Cook.
Yeah, I think Kamara is the guy on the slate who's going to be the linchpin for me. I'm definitely going to be overexposed. That being said, I'm not going to throw aside the game stack. I actually like Kyle Allen here. I know he's been terrible, but you got to be ahead of the curve, right? And Marshawn Lattimore is out for the Saints. DJ Moore is probably not going to be highly owned on the slate. Don't mind getting in McCaffrey. But I also like the Carolina passing game as like Curtis Samuel, maybe fading McCaffrey if the Saints do their best to try to take him away. I'm not fading McCaffrey. I'm definitely going to have McCaffrey within game stacks of this game. This is also the Superdome, remember? So points kind of just happen here. I'll take my chances. I'm not if this is going to be a low-owned game stack, then in the Superdome, like I feel like we could be shaking our heads at the end of the weekend. Why didn't we play it?
Yeah, I think I like this like bad team game stack much better for all the reasons.
Yeah, I get that. I do too.
I'm
building 150, so I'm just making sure I have.
Right now, I'm looking at Kyle Allen projected like less than 1%, and when you can start your build with a quarterback that low, like that's wild. So, yeah, and for all the reasons you said, like points just happen.
You have to like in tournaments, you have to differentiate. If you're going to play Kamara is going to be probably second highest owned guy on the slate.
Who do you think first?
It's definitely a safer play than Julio Jones. So, like for me, I just think that I want to differentiate off of Kamara. You got to have some of those Panthers, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think if I were, let me see, Christian McCaffrey. This is interesting. Christian McCaffrey probably going to be as low owned as we'll get him for the next few weeks, right around 10%, just because I don't like we have Miles Sanders as
That's a mistake.
I still think, Christian McCaffrey basically just goes over both. It's funny. Both goes over ownership projection and both goes over his actual projection every single week. I would still think just because of roster construction, it will be one of the lower owned weeks we ever get him.
So I'm going to get DJ Moore, 10 targets, last 4. Saints don't have their number one corner. He's going to be, do you have an ownership percentage on him?
4%. Yeah, that actually, I could see McCaffrey going.
I'm going to get Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to get Kyle Allen. Under 15% in cumulative ownership in the Superdome.
I think McCaffrey might break that a little bit, but the DJ Moore and the Kyle Allen, I would feel very confident in under 5 and under 1. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm completely on you.
I think a good play to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the Kyle Allen bias is going to be so hard from a very vivid 4-pick game, but he's not bad. He's fine. He's very mediocre, and you don't need to be any more than mediocre to be have one good week.
I actually got to start building my stacks of this game. I have a couple, but I just realized I need more. Way more.
On the Panthers offense, very concentrated. You pretty much know who you're going to when you're stacking. Any interest in
this is so easy. I can't believe they're just going to give me free money this week.
Any where would you be going for the ancillary pieces on the Saints? In my mind, it's probably Jared Cook, who's getting a decent amount of work. Ted Ginn, but hasn't done anything this season.
It's really just Kamara for me. I'll have a couple shares of Cook, but it's really just Kamara. Also, something I find interesting, you have revenge Teddy Ginn, but the game script isn't great. On the flip side of that, if you're playing higher stakes, a lot of people on Traquan Smith last week. He was outdoors. We don't roster Traquan Smith outdoors. We can roster him indoors, though. As a deep GBP flyer, I don't hate it. If you're running a Breeze stack to differentiate, I feel like it's extremely thin, but I don't know. I have a tournament in mind, so.
Yeah, I think I think of it as odds of
it's not a good play, but
yeah, I think of it as odds of paying out versus what it pays out if it hits, and I think the odds are so thin that it's there are better whatever percent plays. Yeah, exactly. It's not worth the leverage you gain or the unique differentiation you get. There are just better plays at that same percentage owned or whatever. So let's hop into our next game. We have Buffalo versus Denver. Buffalo are 4-point favorites. The spreads come down 1 as they open at 5, and it's moved up a half a point to a 37 total. In totals this low, I'm mostly just looking at defenses and some running backs. On the Denver side, I'm actually kind of more interested in their passing game just because they're cheaper and I don't want to say they're more concentrated. I just think they're cheaper, better plays in negative game script. Noah Fant and even Cortland Sutton, I think, are both fine, especially if you were running a Devin Singletary back with them for the correlation. Any interest in all this game is just so hard for me to get excited.
Yeah, I think Tim Patrick is going to be a guy in cash that I'm going to have a significant allocation to. And I was just actually plugging him in my tournament lineup. I don't hate him. 3K off receiver from Tre'Davious White. Cortland Sutton's going to see a lot of Tre'Davious White. I don't usually roster Bill tight ends versus the Bills. They actually do a pretty good job, and I think Tim Patrick will step in as the number 2 receiver at 3K at the min and kind of see a good share of targets. So I don't hate rostering Patrick at the min at all.
Would you rather have Patrick at the min or N'Keal Harry at 33?
That's a question. I think honestly, I'm probably more bullish on Patrick.
Okay. I think as John Kelly on one of our shows pointed out, Philip Lindsay getting a bit more of the work, saw one of his highest snap shares in recent weeks last week. I think he's a fine play, especially because he's such a good receiver that the negative game script could end up helping him. On the other side, Devin Singletary last week outcarried Frank Gore, even in like pretty significant game, like positive game script, which is kind of where I thought they would get Frank Gore involved when they're just throwing the game away, like the game's over. But Devin Singletary still ended up being the guy. So I think both running backs are in play. Outside of that, probably not going back to John Brown, Josh Allen's decks.
Yeah, Lindsey seems like. I think I would prefer Sanders to Lindsey in cash. I think that's a decision point we should probably talk about.
Yeah, I just think the market share of everything, of both carries and targets, is going to be a lot higher for Sanders. But I guess that's sort of not what we saw last week, I guess in terms of especially carries, given how much Boston Scott ate in. Yeah. I would think targets, though, you're probably getting more from Sanders, and you're getting a higher touchdown projection because he's not on the Denver Broncos offense.
Yeah.
No, it's a valid question though.
No, I know.
Yeah, I think that's all I have for this game. Next game, I think so. Next game is actually one that I have more interest in for the bad game tournament stack. Jeff Driscoll and the Lions versus Washington. It has a 40-point total, although the totals come down 1.5, so maybe that's a bad take. The Lions are 3.5-point favorites. I just think you can get a lot of rushing equity from Jeff Driscoll. And he's still been able to huck the ball downfield. He got Marvin Jones 2 tutters last week. And on the other side, you can just run the entire offense with Terry McLaurin, the entire scoring part of the offense. Like you get 50 yards on 20 carries with Adrian Peterson if you want.
Yeah. I think those takes are all really good. Paul Richardson was in the buy low. I don't really want to stack the Washington Redskins with that team total. Or pretty much this game. Like, I think this is going to be an ugly one. I like Driscoll, but I don't know. I get the rushing equity. I would rather go for those other games where I think the offenses are a little bit I don't know. I just like Driscoll's not at home. He's on the road. Washington's been tough, a little tougher at home than like their defense kind of. So I don't hate I just don't hate I just lost my train of thought. I'm not really on this game.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like every week we're just talking about like there are the best plays of the week, like Alvin Kamara, and then there are the bad spots we picked. I picked Trubisky probably 5 weeks ago now. Dude, he's so bad, but I'm playing him. Yeah, bad teams are like I have played him too. Bad teams are gonna.
Driscoll. I like Driscoll last week. You're giving me a lot of flack for that.
Yeah, every week we're just picking bad games to stack and combine them with the good players. And if you pick the right bad game, that's how you make the money, man.
Yeah.
Next game, a game that I'm not as interested in, and I think people are going to be. It is the Jets versus Oakland. Oakland are 3-point favorites in New York. They are. It's a 45.5-point total. Total has come down 1.5 points. I mean, on the Oakland side, Josh Jacobs is a favorite. Makes sense. I think he's continually getting priced up, which makes sense. He's getting all the work and people are playing him. Their receivers, I think since Hunter Renfrow has come on, we've seen a significant downturn from Darren Waller. I'm probably not awfully interested in Darren Waller if I'm not stacking this game, which I don't think I am. So what are you doing with this game? And on the other side, we've seen Robbie Anderson basically take like a backseat to Demaryius Thomas, which is unfortunate because Demaryius Thomas is old and not very good. He's been highly inefficient with his targets, but he's getting the targets.
Yeah. Kind of like Robbie this week. No reason why. Oakland secondary hasn't been great. We were streaming receivers versus them pretty much a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I like the Jet side. I definitely like Darren Waller. I think he's interesting because you can't really pay up for him on DK. So it makes it I think it's an interesting game stack. Two other guys that I think project extremely well. And also right next to each other is Tyrell Williams and Jamison Crowder. I think you should definitely be incorporating them if you're stacking this game. And I don't know, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Next game, I think, let's see. Next game we have is Pittsburgh versus the Bengals. I think we have all of our Pittsburgh news we should need. Juju out, James Conner out, Benny Snell in. I know that's not a huge part of it, but I think it's at least interesting to consider. Deontay Johnson in. So for me, I'm probably not going to be very interested in like James Washington. I think like Deontay Johnson's just been a better player by a decent amount. I'd rather play Deontay Johnson. I think they're like nearly the same price. So
No, yeah, I think that's fine. Vance McDonald's probably my tight end in cash, I think, this week. 7 targets in the last 2 games.
Last 3 games, I believe.
3 games. We'll take that.
Yeah.
It's a really good output. So I like him.
Yeah, he's like 3,500.
Yeah, I don't mind getting up to like the Steelers defense either, if you can.
Yeah. What do you think of, on the other end, paying all the way down to the Bengals defense at 2,100 against a team without their starting running back? That part I don't really care about. But without Juju, I think does make a difference. And like they're just bad. They're not a very good offense. They're pretty conservative. I don't know. Especially when James Conner is out, they just drop it off to Jalen Samuels, and you just get such a cheap option at defense. Any interest in the Bengals?
No, definitely in cash. I think they're pretty close to a lock for me. It's just a price play.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. It's just a price play. For their receivers, Tyler Boyd always in play. Squeaky wheel narrative. If you buy that, I just buy the targets he's gotten all season, but last season, and the hopeful touchdown regression. But given the rate this offense scores touchdowns, it's not like as like DJ Moore one day is just gonna like blow our eyes off with 4 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns in a game. Tyler Boyd, we're gonna
maybe this week.
Yeah, I know.
When we beat all the Julio lineups and we're all celebrating to the bank.
Yeah, I actually have to up my. I haven't really thought too much about that Kyle Allen stack. I think that's your best call of the show. Yeah, but Tyler Boyd, because of the targets. Any interest in Alex Erickson, who I think had like a 100-yard game a few weeks ago. Now he's the number 2 receiver on the team, and you can get the sweet returner run back if you play him with the defense.
No.
Joe Mixon, I guess, would be the last piece of this offense that you consider.
No.
That's fine. I don't like. You can always tell me to fade Joe Mixon on a bat. Like he doesn't get the receiving game work anymore. They're big dogs. Yeah.
Who am I? I'm just trying to figure out like. Now I gotta figure out.
I feel like you should consider Alex Erickson more.
No, no, never.
Oh man, he had 100 yards that one time.
Good for him.
All right, let's hop into our next game. This is we're at the game of the week. It is Tampa Bay versus Atlanta. Atlanta are 4-point home favorites. Total is down to 52, but still, like by far the highest of the slate. I think it's the only above 50, if I'm reading this correct. Yeah, only above 50. So on the Atlanta side, Julio, the chalkiest receiver of the week. The problem is I thought maybe just go back to the Calvin Ridley but I haven't projected nearly 20% ownership. I still think you get some leverage if you just get a 2-touchdown game from Calvin Ridley, but he's going to be owned as well. On the other side, I would so much rather take this from the Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, like maybe a Scotty Miller or a Cameron Brate, like stack that side of it because I think you're just going to get so much less ownership.
Scotty Miller?
Yeah, he got the one bomb he caught last week, and you said he dropped. The target was bad. Like if you're getting multiple deep shots per week, yeah, I'll take the Scotty Miller.
Yeah, 4.36 40 Scotty Miller at 3-1. I think he's an interesting pivot off of Patrick in this game that should be a shootout. He's also seen an uptick in targets. Like in the last 4 games, it went from 1, 2, 3 to 6 last week. So I think that's definitely someone I would consider. He's not my favorite receiver on this team, though. I would say I'd like to go back to the big guns, Godwin and Evans. You're pretty much multi-entering if you're playing them because you're not playing them together. If you want to get exposure to them, it's pretty much how you got to go about it, I would say. I think that I actually like – so a lot of people don't do this, but I like to do it. It's like correlating my receivers with my defense. I know it sounds like kind of weird, but I think that it's definitely something that in my best couple weeks this year, it's been something I've done correctly, I would say. Definitely that Christian Kirk week 2 weeks ago. The Rams week when this Atlanta team was chalk. So I don't mind going Bucks D and like Godwin, or Bucks D and Evans, or Bucks D and Brait, or Bucks D and Scotty Miller, or Bucks D and Ronald Jones for that matter. So
interesting. I'm pulling up just their per game correlations. They Chris Godwin actually has a positive correlation with Bucks D.
Godwin does. What about Evans? No,
Evans does not. It's like slight. It's like R square of 0.13. I think.
What about Miller?
Let me check. Dude, Scotty Miller returns punts. I don't think he does, but
So what about Brait?
Scotty Miller hasn't logged enough games to actually have it count.
Yeah, even be relevant.
Yeah, he's had like 2 games to play over half the team snaps, or maybe only 1. So it's hard to really graft anything from that. Cameron Brait, correlation? No. Neutral, completely neutral. Godwin, interesting. And also, I heard this earlier in the season, didn't really think about it too much, but it does seem like often they will go to Mike Evans when they're down because they just need to make these chunk plays. Like you have to get 20 to 30 yards on a play if you're down 14 in the fourth quarter, whereas it's easy to dink and dunk to Chris Godwin when you're winning, which would correlate with the defense playing well. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's just like, can we play Julio in these lineups too? Like Julio's going to be the highest owned guy on the slate. I think it's like a 50-50 chance within Matt Ryan's range of outcomes, whether he hits the bonus or not, which is like, it's going to be, those are good numbers for guys that are trying to, like guys who just pretty much run optimals and stuff. Like they're all over. Julio's going to be a lock. I think Jameis is going to be really popular in cash games this week. I think Ryan's going to be real popular. This game in general is just going to be real popular. I don't think my qualm with this whole scenario of like running the Bucks D is I don't think it's really that necessary, or I'm probably making more of it than what I should be, because I don't think Julio has many paths to failure. I think the way Julio gets beat is through like maybe getting beat by Odell or getting beat by Julian Edelman or like another receiver. I don't think Julio's gonna not like 3x his price tag or 2x. There's just no one for them to throw to.
Like, I definitely think Julio's going, like I would have him projected to easily hit like 2x's, but for like him to 3x, you could see he goes like what, 8 for 1. Like
I think he get 2x. Yeah, 2x is
2x. I would lock
happening. Like
yes. I could very see him easily going for like 8 for 120, and no touchdowns would be less than 3x, right?
What's the leverage with the Bucks D this week?
Given how high like Julio's going to be owned, Ridley just below him, still a top 5 receiver. I don't know. I think I think you are not making more of it than it's worth.
So here's like my issue though. And it's like, I just feel like last week with the Falcons D and week 7 with the Rams D, when plays like this kind of worked out for me in GPPs, there were a lot more players that were popping in cash game optimals. So like last week you could have had 4 Panthers in cash. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's really the scenario.
Week. I think we're more likely getting like a projected 2 Falcons in cash, but I would argue it's like 2.5 to 3, because Brian Hill is still in the same role. He's not going to get the same percentage he did last week of ownership, but it's literally nothing has changed from last week, except we saw that he's a mediocre backup, which we knew already.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed with Brian Hill. We just know he's mediocre, which we should have known in the first place. Calvin Ridley, I think, is going to, obviously I'm looking at projections, going to be pretty highly owned. I don't think it's quite the same as last week where the Panthers onslaughts were like cash game, like everyone's playing in cash, but it's going to be in that sort of range.
It's not going to be the onslaught though. Like I feel like last week you had the Panthers passing game and then you had McCaffrey. Like you legitimately could have played DJ, Greg Olsen, McCaffrey, and Kyle Allen and Cash. You even could have made a case for Curtis Samuel, even though I wouldn't really do that. But it's not like that heavy. Like
No,
I don't
it's
even
not,
think Matt Ryan's going to be. I don't think Matt Ryan's going to be the cash game guy come like 2 hours from now. I think it's going to be Jameis. So it's not really. It's kind of like maybe the other way around, like Julio and Atlanta D. It's just like the split isn't as.
No, I agree. Last week it was a lot more viable to jam in all the Panthers. This week I think it's much closer to like Matt Ryan being the second cash game quarterback, Julio still being the chalk. But I think you are going to get very similar ownership on the second, and you're probably going to get more ownership on the second and third receivers on Atlanta than you did last week with the Panthers. Because right now I have Ridley at like nearly 20% and Russell Gage over 10.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
All right. Running backs, I guess. I don't know. I'm probably still not playing Ronald Jones. He's just continually splitting work with Peyton Barber, like 50-50 role. They have a receiving back, so even I think his receiving upside is capped. Like we saw 8 targets a few weeks ago. That's more than I think he'll get for a long time. I'd honestly rather just play Brian Hill and hope he gets in the end zone.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
All right, next game on our slate. For everyone who has questions, we'll get to them. We just knock them out at the end after we run through all the games. So you can keep firing them off in chat or in the question section. I'm sure we will get to them, I promise. Next game, Tennessee versus Jacksonville. Tennessee are 3.5-point home favorites. The total is stuck at 41.5. Leonard Fournette, 7,300 for the work he's getting is just underpriced, but he's fat and doesn't score touchdowns. Derrick Henry, on the other hand, is not fat and does score a lot, but doesn't get the volume that we see from Leonard Fournette. But he is the home favorite, and we've seen him annihilate Jacksonville before. I think both are firmly in play. I really like Fournette this week because I'm a sucker for touchdown regression. What are you doing with the receiving options in this game?
Yeah, so I think that Nick Foles, DJ Chark, and Chris Conley make for a good game stack, and running it back with Derrick Henry. I think a lot of people are a lot more bullish on Henry than I am. I hate this game. Like twice a year we get it, Tennessee or Jacksonville. You know what I mean? Like just like not a lot of scoring, not a lot of like great. Like DJ Chark's like probably the best player on the field, but like it's just not like an interesting game for me. Like I'm not into it.
I didn't realize though that's a sharp call. And Chris Conley has over 7 targets in 4 straight games. That's I would have literally never known that.
I'm sharp, Kyle. You know,
sometimes you bust out the good stuff. No, he hasn't done a ton. He's not very good. I think he had 80 yards in one of those games. Probably scored a touchdown.
I think that he's interesting, but it's just like at 40, I actually really do like Chris Conley.
No, that's a good call. Yeah, he had back-to-back games of over 80 yards. Those were the first 2 games in that the 4-game streak of 7 targets. But yeah, he's like super unimaginably athletic. Like he's one of the highest spark score players in the league, I think, or at least when he came in, he was. So
yeah, he's definitely fine. I think Foles like really pushed for him too for whatever reason. So I think that's like another plus.
Was Foles ever a backup in Kansas City?
Yeah, I think he was, right?
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. Like in between starting gigs, he was a backup there.
I don't know if he crossed over with Conley though. He might have. I don't know.
Conley was there for a while, so they probably did, or at least I feel like Conley was there for a while. But yeah, back to the game stack. I think you can realistically stack Foles with Leonard Fournette as well because he's like top 10 in routes run, top 5 or so in targets. For running backs, I think he could get there on the ground, get there through the air or on the ground. So I think that's also a fine way to stack it. And then, yeah, I think it makes sense to run it back with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop into our next game. It is the last game of the slate. Only 2 4:00 games this week, and one of them is awful. So that's exciting. New England versus Dallas. New England are 5.5-point home favorites. They have a 44.5-point over-under for the game. I think it's interesting to run Dallas stacks and just fade defense matters narratives. And I even believe this is a defense that does matter. Like, obviously, we've seen them crush everyone but Lamar Jackson. They're clearly one of the better defenses in the past few years, in the past many years, honestly. But Dallas right now, I think, is like the league leader in efficiency per play. It's just that they can oftentimes sit on leads, so they haven't had any like crazy games. Maybe they've had like 1 or 2, but like They don't lead the league in raw points, but they lead the league in like every efficiency metric. Michael Gallup underpriced at 5,900 by a lot, in my opinion. I think you said on the Wednesday show you think Zeke might get more involved as a receiver, which we know he's capable of. If you can like be ahead of that curve of him getting back in the receiving game, that's how he pays off his price tag. So I kind of like the Dallas stacks.
Yeah, I like the Dallas stacks too. Definitely like Zeke, definitely like Gallup. I think you can make a case for Jason Witten, although I'm not like really enthused. N'Keal Harry, we talked about on the other side. He's like he could be a chalkier play. He's at the 4 p.m. start though, so I feel like people just roster Patrick for the safety without knowing, unless we get some news like pretty early. Yeah, Edelman, very good play. Burkhead, James White, I think they're also very good plays. And Brady, no one's talking about Brady. All these other QBs, and I think Brady's going to go pretty low owned. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean I think you're on the right path there. James White, I think, is like up in the top of the league in terms of, or at least earlier in the season he was in terms of like red zone usage, like red zone targets, especially he even missed a game. Last week or 2 weeks ago, he got like 9 carries as well. I don't know. It's like I think especially with all the guys out, we can expect a lot of like 2 running back sets. So James White will be on the field very often. So I really like James White this week. Yeah, right now he is, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th in the league in red zone targets.
Yeah.
And he has scored all of 1 touchdown on them. And I think that's like his only touchdown in the season. So James White buy low. I like that. You can get a very cheap N'Keal Harry, and he'll probably be decent leverage off Tim Patrick if he's higher. But I think N'Keal Harry is going to be higher owned, I would imagine.
Yeah. No, I think he'll be pretty highly owned. Can't wait for my Kyle Allen stack to win the Millionaire Maker this week.
I can't wait for my Kyle Allen stack to win some of the 3 max.
Kyle Allen, little DJ Moore.
DJ Moore.
Just heat.
That's
how do you beat this team? I'm looking at this team right now. Like, I just don't see how you beat it.
All right. I think that's the end. I think
we didn't talk about Sony Michel.
Why would we?
He's popping and modeling.
I hate Sony Michel. You never get me to play him. You can't make me.
He's popping.
So bad though. He's like, it's like telling me to play Kalen Balazs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 4,600 for a dude who gets a lot. I want to say gets a lot of team carries, but in recent weeks he hasn't even done that. 4 carries 2 weeks ago, 10 carries last week. And for some unknown reason, they continue to get him involved in the passing game. The past 2 weeks, he has 6 targets. Has multiple games over 3 targets, or at 3 targets, I guess. If you want to do it, it's fine. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't really ask her opinion though, so.
Yeah, I mean, this is opinion. It doesn't matter.
No, like your opinions are always very.
It's like if you ask my opinion on Alex Erickson. Probably doesn't matter. All right, questions. Do you guys have more than 1 cash game lineup each week? I don't. Do you, Bobby?
Adam Levitan has a saying. I don't really want to get into it. No, I go one lineup.
Wait, what is it? What does this say?
It's too condom, guys. Don't do that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I know he'll play 2 cash game lineups like a few times a year.
There are slates to do it. I don't do it.
I don't think I ever do it. I don't think I've done it once this year.
I think a better way to do it is just to play multiple sites, or just play like multiple.
Okay, slates. Yes, that is actually. If you want to count that, I absolutely do have multiple cash game lineups every week. It helps you differentiate your cash game without like doing it in a suboptimal way, essentially.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. If you are multi-entering with 150 lineups, this is all you, Bobby. Are they all unique, or are you entering 15 lineups 10 times each? There you go.
So you're building a portfolio off of the best way to do this, whatever you do, don't jump in the Millionaire Maker and play 150 lineups this week if you're doing it for the first time. I think the best way to do it and the best way to learn is to play the 150 jukebox.
The 50 cent one?
Which is like the 50 cent one. And when you become comfortable with that, you can move on to like, I don't know, different contests, but like I would hit that for like 3 or 4 months or maybe a little longer before you start like really throwing in hard American dollars on like multi-entering, because it's definitely negative EV for the like a lot of the time. Yeah, so for me, I just build off ownership. I try to have a lot of correlation. So like we talked about, like I like Alvin Kamara a ton today, and I want to differentiate off Kamara. One of the best differentiation plays on the slate has to be Kyle Allen, DJ Moore. That's just for me. So I'm gonna have a lot of them, and like I build my groups and my stacks that way. Like we pretty much talked about. I would definitely. I feel like you should have like if it's Julio or Kamara, you should definitely be overweight on one today. But like my best explanation would be, so like when I build 150, I'm either above the field on a player, which would be Kamara for me today. I'm either with the field on a player, and this is like players within my player pool. I'm below the field or I'm a fade. So like that's kind of how I approach it, and that's all based off ownership. And my exposures are all based off ownership.
Cool. Yeah, that's a very thorough explanation. Thank you. GM guy, as usual, need advice on QB and defense on head-to-head FanDuel. QB, I think it's the same as it is on DraftKings, either Matt Ryan or Jameis Winston. I will be going Jameis Winston. I just think that you lock down a lot of yardage because he passes a lot. He passes it deep. Defense, right now I'm looking at, I think this is interesting, to lend credence to Jeff Driscoll slander. Washington at 3K flat on FanDuel is probably a really good price for a team playing against a career backup.
Yeah.
Like you said, they're significantly better defense than like the actual awful teams like Miami or like Cincinnati.
No, I'm with you. I think that's definitely true. I think that I don't hate Washington. I should probably look into that.
Please pick 2: Hollywood, Robert Woods, Geis, Kareem Hunt, full PPR. Not Geis, he's still going to split work. I think Adrian Peterson was like a limited participant and still going to split work on an awful offense. I'd probably go Hollywood, Robert Woods. Yeah, or maybe Kareem Hunt over Robert Woods. I guess I'll let you split that one.
Hollywood, Robert Woods.
Okay.
Hollywood, Kareem Hunt. Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, I said either definitely Hollywood for sure, and then either Kareem Hunt or Robert Woods. Both are fine. I guess I'd go Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't even know who the Rams play. Who do they play?
They play so I guess if you want to build correlation into your season long leagues, which I still do all the time, they play the Rams play the Ravens on like one of the primetime games. I think it's like Monday night or Sunday night. So yeah, if you wanted to build in more upside, maybe that's the way you do it. Actually,
I actually think that's kind of a Robert Woodsy game, to be perfectly honest.
There you go. All right, Robert Woods. PPR question: Tevin Coleman or Deebo Samuels? I think the anticipation is that everybody is healthy for San Francisco. So I guess at that I'd be playing probably Tevin Coleman. I don't know. I think once George Kittle is back and the more healthy Emmanuel Sanders is, we're going to see Deebo Samuel kind of push the role he was earlier in the season. Whereas Tevin Coleman his role doesn't change a ton regardless of who's in or who's out.
Yeah.
All right. Best cash quarterback this week. Pick your player from Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. I think it's Jameis, but I totally field arguments.
I'm with you. I'm Jameis. I already have him in.
Yep. I'd be fine with Matt Ryan, though. His team is implied for more points and they're at home.
I can't believe that, dude, I don't want to do that. It is what it is. I'm just not even, I don't even really want to play. I hate cash weeks when I have to actually consider Jameis and now I have to play him. So
Saxonville or Bills Mafia defense. Jacksonville. Definitely Bills playing Brandon Allen. Yeah, Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's a good DFS play. because they get to play an awful quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, who's been sacked like 8 times in the past 2 weeks and turned it over twice or maybe 3 times if he fumbled it away. But Bills just have a significantly higher projection, like just straight up.
No, I'm with you.
Any interest in Gordon with Wilson? If I were stacking that game, absolutely. But I don't think, because I don't lend too much credence to them coming to, I don't think it's a huge deal that Russell Wilson is going to the East Coast on a 1 p.m. game, which for him would be that's like a 10 game. He's Russell Wilson. He's a great player. He probably is better than that. But the implied team total and the overall over-under coming down does have me probably not stacking this game. So if you were stacking it, I think Seattle, Gordon, and DK Metcalf, or Seattle, Gordon, and Lockett are both in play. Also, Jacob Hollister, a guy we didn't talk about, but it's just I think he's a fine play in DFS this week, and you're playing him season long because he's Russell Wilson's starting tight end.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably where I'd go. Driscoll, bad play in cash. Yeah, Driscoll's a tournament play only for me. I think the paying up for our Jameis Winston or Matt Ryan, probably even other plays, are better.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I think he's interesting for tournaments, but that does not mean I'll be anywhere close to him in cash. I think for me, it's Jameis Winston, Matt Ryan. I could see Baker Mayfield at 5,900 is fine. That's probably it.
Yeah.
All right. If nobody has any more questions, that is it for myself at Kyle Tweets here, for Bobby Gomes at Bobby Gomes DFS. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We will catch you Wednesday on 8:15 Eastern on Wednesday to break down Week 13.
Great.